Yeah.
Peace world, you're still spinning and America's still free. This is Upgrade America. You know what it is. I'm Cameron now. Here with CJ the finish him, the Day Slayer. How the heck are you, broski? Tell us
Good.
what's new. What's
Maintain. And
up?
that's it.
What's up? What
Sunday,
we
chill
talking about?
vibe, raining, all that stuff. Florida life, hot
Gator.
stuff.
Chunk. You know what I mean? But
Okay.
what we talking about today? What's on the rundown?
We're gonna talk about drug legalization. We're gonna talk about human trafficking. We're gonna talk about
Oh,
Florida making some
oh
interesting
boy.
education choices legally.
Sound like Scarface, 1983, and showing my age. But yeah, say hello to my little friend. Let's get into it, man. Speaking of of movies and drug related movies, you just saw that movie that's about human trafficking.
Yes.
What is it? And spoil it for us, because I'm not gonna watch
Yes. So the Sound of Freedom. It's based off a true story.
it. Okay.
I think the guy. Let me get some of the details right. He worked for I think Homeland Security, and they're going after human traffickers or whatever. But he never really. They were getting, I think, the pedophiles, but they weren't getting the kids. They weren't recovering the missing kids.
Hmm.
And it hit him one day. And he was like, "Wait a minute." He said, "Are you?" Some one of his colleagues was like, "Yo, we making a difference, but not really. How many kids have you recovered?" And the dude was like, "Yo." So then he goes on this mission that sets him on his new mission of recovering kids. And so you see what he goes through, like the red tape, the bureaucracy. You see all that. You see the
Hmm.
conflict. He has kids himself. He's a family man. He gets the okay from the wife, like, hey, I got to do this. It's risky. Everything is crazy.
But tell me,
So
how did he?
go
What
ahead.
led him? Like, where are the clues? Like, and where did it ultimately lead to?
Eventually, he set up a big sting operation and recovered one of the kids. He acted like he was one of the pedophiles and connected and got access to the pedophiles like system, how they do things, all this kind of stuff. And that's how he got his recovered his first kid. And that sent him on the journey of, oh damn, I can do this. I know how they talk. I know how they think.
I see.
Boom,
So
boom,
he
boom.
infiltrated them more.
Absolutely.
So it kind of reminds me of current events with the whole Epstein saga and everything. Was there any how you say elements of what's going on in real life reflected in that movie?
Absolutely. They actually had an island where they set up a sting,
Hmm.
parallel like Epstein did. He had his private island. Well, they set up a private island to create a sting to get all these kids, to recover all these kids.
And I got plenty of questions for you, but like the the persons or whoever was running that organization, were they drugs cartels? Like, who was running this thing?
I think I think this is one of their methods of income. It
I
appeared to
see.
be.
So they were related. They were involved in it.
Yeah, I think drugs was a part of it, but this is like it felt. You know how like organized crime has different things they do.
They have rackets, so to speak.
There you go. It felt like that's what it felt like for me. Like this is one of their major money hitters, especially kids, unfortunately,
Now, when you
because
say they, was this an international organization? Like, like what
well,
region was did this happen the most? Because I thought
this go
in
ahead.
my scrolling through Twitter that Brazil was mentioned.
They were in, I think, Colombia. This took place in
Okay.
Colombia. The setting for this particular case, but as we know, human trafficking is international. It's global business, definitely.
So it's all types of organized crimes have their fingers dipped into this. It's not like just like
Mhm.
one entity. I see. So this
Yeah,
is a major issue that's not just an American problem, it's an international problem. And we kind of have some ideas on how we would like to combat that. I asked about the drugs because, it ain't no secret cocaine was found in the White House. And it goes to show all types of people are getting high. Why not tax it and upgrade America? What are your thoughts, CJ?
we've been discussing this probably all 4 seasons. Matter of fact, I took it a step further.
Mm.
Probably last week, I emailed our elected officials about
Yes,
legalizing drugs. So I hit up the mayor of Orlando, mayor of where I live. I hit up our two senators. I think I hit up the governor. I know he's busy campaigning. Um,
oh, Mr. DeSantis. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Yes,
and
sir.
so each episode, what I've been trying to do is everything we talk about, I email our elected officials a solution or a plan of action.
Well, then that makes a lot of sense. Because here I am thinking that RFK Jr. just randomly stumbled upon our podcast and then subsequently decided to, announce that he would back the US dollar with what? Yeah, Bitcoin and or gold. And it sounds like something that we just discussed. And yeah, we did. What are your thoughts on that epiphany?
Well, you've been championing this for a while. We had a discussion last episode. We know DC listens to our episodes. We know
Look
Silicon
at the
Valley
metrics,
listens
yeah.
to our episodes. We know that New York listens to our episodes. So there you go. We know
Iraq,
actually
Russia, yeah,
who
yeah.
else
Shout out to
listens
the
to our
Kremlin.
episode. Yeah, I'm sure our governor listens to our episodes at some point. So that's par for the course. But what would in a Cameron Ra administration, what would drugs look like? How would we tackle the complexity of drugs in America?
Um, if you'll give me a moment to go into these notes,
Okay.
I'd like to bring them up. It's something that we have to tackle. It's something that we have to address. It's probably like it'll impact millions of lives, making
Mm-hmm.
a change like this. So if you give me one moment, I was unprepared for this right here, but let's dive into it. So, first objective underneath this program, this very high level, would be the federal legalization of weed. But the buds only. When you're getting into all that chemical authorizations, that's an entirely different subject. We gotta have another discussion on that. But for bud, across all 50 states, Guam, and what have you, legalize it because you're spending a lot of time processing weed related crimes. For every weed related crimes, be it a dime bag or a kilo, you're taking an officer off the street for, let's just call it 5 to 6 hours. Meanwhile, the human traffickers that CJ was talking about are cruising up and down the highways doing their efforty. So, by legalizing a plant that has not harmed or killed a single soul, you can combat human trafficking. Secondly, as we mentioned, there's someone's getting high in the White House. Why not legalize cocaine? You can't just open the floodgates and then just sell it out of Walgreens or some dispensary. Oh no, no, no! This is a far more dangerous drug than than
Mm-hmm.
weed. So I say that you roll it out in phases. But CJ, your face seems to have some. You seem to disagree. Please share your thoughts.
I would say fentanyl is the killer right now versus cocaine
So
and other
I
synthetic drugs. Not so much
oh
cocaine as much.
I will not disagree with you. I believe that fentanyl is far more dangerous than cocaine. I haven't even put on this program anything related to to heroin or
Mm-hmm.
fentanyl or anything of that nature. But but we must agree that cocaine does have its dangers with the
Mm-hmm.
addictions.
Mm-hmm.
The You can OD on it. Too much of it can kill you,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why for to roll this out, I would say the first phase is for research and development. I'm talking about the only people who are getting access to this coke,
Mm-hmm.
universities and pharmaceuticals. I know it's kind of like that now, but I would
Mm-hmm.
like it to be for more people to get involved.
Okay.
Let's lessen the red tape for more people to get access to cocaine. And so we can get research, we can get data that we all can share across some sort of blockchain or something. We can
Mm-hmm.
share this data on safe dosages, micro dosages, or what have
Okay.
you. Go back to the good old days when they put Coke in Coca Cola. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I believe in its raw form, perhaps. There could be maybe even some medicinal value before it's like cut with like kerosene and gasoline and all that stuff the cartels use to whack it up in the nose candy, but
Yeah.
like and cook up and and what have you. But the raw plant, I believe there is some medicinal value, if not only to use as a caffeine supplement.
Okay.
So I want to elaborate on the next phase would be like once you have that data, then
Mm-hmm.
you're like, yo, Coca Cola, Starbucks, yada, yada, yada. This is the safe amount of cocaine that you can add to such and such a product. But you have to regulate it. You have to control it. You have to have sort of how they do the weed card medicinal programs, where it's like you're rationing it. So you're
Okay.
controlling, you're making sure people cannot purchase too much of it. And then, of course, you got to tax it and make sure it's labeled with the appropriate, how you say, with the appropriate hotlines and warnings and labels. But the truth of the matter is, there's a $35 billion industry that America is not getting a dime off of. And you want to throw 2 billion, God bless the DEA, you want to throw $2 billion at a $35 billion problem, and it's still on our streets. You can go to any major city in America and you can get cocaine. So, heck, you can even go to the District of Columbia. Narrow it down even further. You can score some coke in the White House if you really know somebody. So there it is. How would you change the drug policies in America, CJ?
We're pretty lockstep. I would say, I guess where I disagree or depart from what you're saying is we pretty much already have all the information. It's a matter of policy and
Mm.
infrastructure, right? If you think about LSD, all these things have been researched. It started in universities, government labs. So we kind of already have this information, but I do agree that we need to figure out the safe dosages
My
for
only
how
pushback is we have decades of misinformation. Remember when there's a whole lot of university sponsored information that said weed damaged your brain cells,
hmm
only to find out that the tests they performed on the monkeys was their brain cells were damaged because they suffocated the monkeys.
mm
Like it wasn't as a or from a result of the weed. It was the way they
hmm
applied it. But I want fresh data. I
Okay.
want fresh data that we're sharing. And again,
Um,
like particularly when we're talking about not so much for weed, it's already out there, but for cocaine and anything harder than that, shrooms, let it all, let them have fun. Do some regulation and research, of course.
I think you and I spoke about this. The most dangerous drugs would be what, like PCP and like fentanyl.
Yeah,
If you had to put like the most dangerous,
and I see no recreational use for that. I mean, people party there are different types of ways, but I suppose if you regulate it and you control
Hmm.
it, surely that's better than them getting it from the street corner.
I agree. The biggest thing is you want to eliminate unnecessary deaths. Um,
Agree.
the other factor about this, which blows our minds, we've talked about this over the seasons, is the amount of jobs and industry you can create from this. It's like so untapped. You got security. You want security for safe
Absolutely.
facilities, IT. You have clinical, clinical people, medical personnel.
So
You have, go ahead.
that's why I want. I agree with you on the medical personnel. Just to roll back to that whole heroin thing like that. If you're
Hmm.
legal, if you want to make it legal, I would say at least first have it. People do it on site where you have medical staff, like you said, and there, yes, that would create a whole nother job too. But even people trying to talk them out of doing drugs, like you can, there's countless jobs and money to be made here.
Absolutely. Like think about the buildings and stuff you can already use. All these
Hmm.
unused buildings, you can repurpose this into treatment facilities
Facts.
or I don't know, recreational facilities for using drug use in a safe and calm environment. You know what I'm saying? You have security there, you have medical professionals there, all this stuff we can be creating industry from. And then would we really need the DEA like that?
I would say the main purpose of the DEA would be to target the underground market. Just how cigarettes is regulated, right?
Hmm.
You can go to drugstores or supposed to buy medicine. You can buy cigarettes, right? But you still have the ATF, the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Agency, right?
Hmm.
Their whole purpose is to make sure, like, oh, word, you're driving from this state to this state with mass cigarettes to resell them and blah blah. They make sure that that don't happen. They're making sure that you're not selling to minors and things of that nature. So the DA would be like, oh, you think you're gonna sneak in a kilo from Mexico and sell this on your corner? Like,
Hmm.
no, get it from Walgreens. God bless you. Like,
So another question. What would be the age limit, like the age restrictions for using illicit drugs?
I'm with the whole if you can fight and serve for your country,
Hmm.
like should be able to do whatever you want. And I'm going with 18.
So, bringing that up, should we lower the age for drinking to 18 if we're going to do drugs like this? Because alcohol has been legal for a while. So, I mean, we would need some kind of something across the board on
So
this.
let's have this rational discussion then.
Okay.
Like if we weighed it like some sort of risk analysis of
Hmm.
what were the most dangerous substances,
Okay.
I would say weed would be at the very lowest.
Okay.
I would argue even that cocaine would be like a little less dangerous than alcohol if the cocaine were administered in a microdose.
Hmm.
And I would still reserve the fact like, yo, experiment with this little stuff that won't kill you. Like alcohol can, I would keep it at 21. But what are your thoughts?
It just gets to really tricky territory because now you're legalizing all these illicit substances, all right? All these drugs. Oh, free for all now. And like you mentioned, like we're kind of talking about, you don't know really the effects on each person. It could be a lot different.
That is
So
true.
if you keep the standard, I feel like you should raise it all to 21, right?
Hmm.
At least you're out of those crazy teenage years, right? At least 21, you got a little more conception of morality, like of your mortality. I'm sorry. Um,
Are you referring with weed too, or with the other drugs?
Mainly the other drugs, but you kind of want to make it uniform in a sense because, and I'll go a step further, and you're gonna disagree. I
Okay.
think that you shouldn't join the military at 18. I think you should join at 21. I think we should raise the age for that. I don't think we should do 18 anymore.
I
And I
think
feel
they're
like that
struggling with
eliminates all.
recruiting right now, like as is. The force is changing. So would you're saying age, right? But what additional requirements
As far as
for military?
you can do like, because I'm thinking about it, right? 18, you're so young and impressionable. You brought up something interesting. We heard this while we served. Well, if you can fight and die for your country, why you can't have a drink or whatever, whatever, right? But if you can just get people already legal coming in, you might have a little bit less people, but we already talked about the future of warfare anyway. But you would have a little bit more mature crowd coming in, a little bit more mature. Because think about if you came in at 21 versus 18, that's a big ass difference. You were in basic training with people that are in their 20s. They were a lot more responsible. They tended to be in the more leadership positions, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have more stability across the board. You know what I'm saying? I think 21 wouldn't be a bad idea to change that up too.
Thing is,
That's just
we're
me.
already in a position where you can legally, someone can legally be in basic training when they're 17.
Mm-hmm.
We're already in the position where you never have enough manpower.
Mm-hmm.
So to put yourself in a position where you have less, I would say no. Particularly while we have the Russians,
Mm-hmm.
they're just kilometers away from a NATO country to that crispy mess over there. And then when we have China, just inching their way towards Taiwan invasion and us making pledges to have their back no matter what. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we're in no position to discriminate because of age in military.
I think it's worth the discussion though. Would you just make an exception for everybody in the military then?
What do you mean?
Okay, if they had a military ID, they should be able to go to a bar and drink or whatever.
Okay, so yeah, I would make an exception. Of most certainly, I'll make an exception policy
I just
for
throwing it out there,
military.
like you
Yeah,
know.
like so, if you're on, but it would only be on military installations, just
Okay,
like commanders could do it, right? I believe
okay.
commanders in Korea, there's be a new commander comes, they'd be like, "Oh, that's what the drinking age was before." No, we're making the drinking age this now. We've seen it happen.
Yeah,
But as a how do you say it's commander in chief, heck yeah. Like any uniformed military person serving, care for 17 or whatever, you could drink on a military installation. Like
that's a compromise. I could see that. I was just trying to, because I'm looking at society. You know, military is a whole different society. It's its
it
own
is.
society, right? So, but the difference is social media. So it's almost like blurred nowadays. Granted, it's different. When we were in, it was developing. The social media was bubbling. It was coming up.
Very
Now
rudimentary.
everybody has access to this information. So, in a weird way, it's almost not like that insulated bubble you need to be more effective.
Mm.
If you got access, you can look on social media. Oh, this is what's going on. Like you see what's going on in the world compared to we didn't see what's going on in the world. It's a lot different.
Thing is, it's like you and I know this.
Mm-hmm.
So that means CIA knows this.
Mm-hmm.
Which means they're down channeling that to DOD. Which makes me wonder, I can only speculate, do they control what military members see on social media?
That's a good question.
Meaning, like, I log on to. I mean, we already know there's algorithms and
Mm-hmm.
whatnot, but for that particular matter, so I'm listening to this. I'm digressing for a moment, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm listening to this lecture on AI and how it would use to manipulate people, drive people crazy just by controlling our feeds.
Hmm.
Like the right amount of information at the right timing and coordinate, it can drive people mad and actually have them do stuff like bad things. But
Hmm.
like, could such an algorithm be used to one keep the troops passive and two keep information out of their feed that may disrupt the good order and discipline?
Good question. Good point. And you remember we looked up the requirements, and they were pretty loose with social media. It wasn't really nothing
Mm.
hardcore. I remember we looked it up. What, season two, season three? We looked it up. We talked.
Yeah,
It wasn't really any. We were kind of shocked. Like, I would think it would be almost banned to have social media in the military, to be honest, unless it's like public affairs or something like that, like for commercials or something like that.
it's almost like it would be frivolous to try to enforce. It would probably take a lot of energy to try to
Oh
enforce.
yeah.
So it's might as well like let them have it, or let them think they have it. We'll just give them this, that, and the third. But
Mhm.
again, in this small world where the word of mouth, you can't stop the word of mouth, like and people finding out information from all these channels.
Yeah.
But
But yeah, I mean, basically, overall, we want to legalize drugs and focus on human trafficking. So, does that tie into the other thing we've been championing, which is not necessarily popular, but legalizing prostitution? Because I kind of think they go hand in hand, to be honest.
absolutely. And maybe like in this spa that we mentioned where people can go and do drugs and stuff like that, there'll be all types of legal hookers there as well. But to answer your question, how does it all tie in?
Mhm.
So right now, in like every state but Nevada, in only certain cities, there's
Mhm.
law enforcement that's out there. Their efforts are to combat consenting adults from having sex. Really think about that.
Yep.
It's like it's something that occurs all the time, every single day. It's just that between Sally and Bob, it's a transaction. And you know the only reason why they're hating? The only reason why they're hating because they ain't getting a taste. They ain't a little bit like, oh, a blowjob happens in the park. I want a piece of that. And I think by legalizing it, you're by legalizing prostitution, you're not going to send law enforcement after Bob and Sally for their transaction. They're consenting adults.
Mhm.
What we do want every single cop, every single branch of government, military, what have you, intelligence agency, we want them focused on human trafficking for children. We want them focused
Mhm.
on child sex crimes. And
Mhm.
so if you are saying, oh, Bobby and Sally, y'all doing your thing, you're all of age, you agreed to this, cool. Pay your taxes, you have nothing to worry about. But where it is dealing with minors and stuff, that is where you need to concentrate the
Mhm.
efforts. If that film, shout it out again, man.
Sound of Freedom. Actually, they said it took 5 years to get it out because Hollywood was trying to suppress it coming out because it
Mm.
told so much truth. But it's if you look on the ratings, the audience score versus Rotten Tomatoes, which is a metric showing how good a movie is, basically, the audience score is 100. Rotten Tomatoes is like 83 or 93 or something like that. So they won't fully give it 100 either. And I found
Well,
that interesting.
Hollywood, there is some Hollywood is linked with all that. All these elites are they're somehow tied into that. We can elaborate on another episode. But I only mentioned that movie again, The Sound of Freedom, only to say if there's a degree of truth to what that film is saying, then nothing is more important than stopping human trafficking against children.
Yeah. Since we're coming up on time, we want to kind of wrap this up, but also something that happened in Florida that's been in an uproar, right?
Okay.
The Florida Board of Education, this is coming from CNN, approved a new set of standards on how Black history should be taught in the state's public schools, sparking criticism from education and civil rights advocates who said students should be allowed to learn the full truth of American history. So basically, they said the advanced placement of African American studies course for high school students was rejected, a preliminary pilot version of it by DeSantis and whoever. They were saying it was too woke, too many agendas, etc. But the interesting thing was, so he came up with something else, which I hate how to use the word wokeness because they're not using it properly.
Mm.
Um, it's a dog whistle to basically mean black. That's basically what it boils down to.
Oh
And
yeah, when I hear anti woke, that's
yeah,
kind of what I'm like. Oh man,
they use it for the gay agenda or black people. They use it for those two reasons. So let's see. I'm gonna just read this one part that I thought was interesting. The new standards required instruction for middle school students to include how slaves developed skills, which in some instances could be applied for their personal benefit. And they wanted to overlook about other massacres that happened here in Ocoee, Florida, which is here in Central Florida. Somebody voted. They had a big race riot here. Then you also had the Rosewood Massacre, which they wiped out the whole town.
wow.
Whole town. Like it's literally just a sign there. I think I drove past it at some point. That would be somewhere we should go and film one of our episodes one time.
I would like
Um,
to see that.
but basically, long story short, they're trying to sanitize history. Um, and you and I have talked about this. If people really knew the true history of Black American history here, the horrendous acts and things that really happened, you couldn't stomach it. Like there's stuff I've had to put the book down because
It's
it's so crazy.
thing is like it's you couldn't stomach it above all, and I think this is the main reason is it will make you angry. It'll make your blood boil. And then when you see, you still see it in your face, it will still make you mad. And it is something to be ashamed of. Granted, this generation had nothing to do with what happened before. Still, they benefit from it, and the hatred is perpetuated. But yeah, teaching it like, hey, did you know that they used to use black children as bait for hunting? Out in the woods, like that type of stuff it will make you angry. Yeah, we know that we're used as as livestock, but all the rape and the needless murder and the way the whole practice, yeah, it will make you angry, and that's something I think they fear. I think they fear an angry Black America. You see, they got us angry. They got us angry. We're angry, but they got us angry at each other. They're
Hmm.
like, because it's like you listen to hip hop, it's niggas killing niggas. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? But that rage is directed at us. But when they that same rage, oh man, if they learn about our history and why we're so pissed off, we can't learn about that. Why we're so pissed off because that rage could be redirected. So they have to wipe it out. They
Hmm.
have to wash that. You can't learn about how whole towns were wiped off the map. You can't learn about Black Wall Street. You gotta do your due diligence.
What
But
are
what did
what,
Kamala Harris go down there for?
basically you already know. Like at this point, she came down here to say like it's ridiculous, blah blah blah. I'll be honest, I ignored her because she's been kind of an invisible vice president, and I know that's
Mm.
kind of their job, right? But I look at it like this, and I saw a clip on the Breakfast Club that I thought was very interesting because they were talking about solutions to counteract this, right, in the black community. And Charlemagne said, teach at home. Okay, that's definitely one
Hold on,
solution.
say that one more time.
He was saying teach at home, self-taught.
Teach at home. What do you mean by
Yeah,
that?
our black history, like true black history.
Should be taught at home.
Yeah, but he's saying like we as black folks should teach our own history at home. That's where it starts, at the home. As far as reading books, distributing this information, they have stuff for kids. They do have curriculum and stuff like that for kids. I see it all the time on IG, like flashcards with Black history facts, all kind of stuff, right? I do agree with that, but they were also saying the other two people, DJ Envy and Teslin, were saying, okay, you got a lot of single parents that don't have time to really do that, so school kind of helps them out. What about for those folks? And somebody brought up Black church should be teaching Black history as well. You know, a little bit of Bible, a little bit of Black history mixed in there, have workshops and stuff, maybe after school programs, um, to teach our true history. Because, like, I thought about it, you and I have talked about this every season, that we learn more history as an adult than as kids. And luckily, my grandparents and my mom tried to teach as much as they could, but learning as an adult where you can understand concepts and truly put yourself in the place of these people that went through these horrendous things and see in society make the connections. I think it's a combination of everything. I think what I have been seeing is we've been teaching each other. Now, sometimes it's a little bit inaccurate or whatever, whatever, but what I've noticed has been peer to peer teaching. Oh,
I
yo, I discovered this and I'll share it with you, and you'll share it with somebody.
The different channels that we can learn about Black education are great. I totally encourage everyone to teach at home, and also get it from different sources. Still, public education has to lay down a fundamental understanding of what America was built and found upon.
Hmm.
And furthermore, I think why it's so painful is because it has not been resolved. Like the issue of slavery, yeah, 1800s, here we are, 2023, and no reparations. So it's like that stain is there and it hasn't been scrubbed clean. So first things first, America needs to do some Bitcoin reparations, just to say they did something, and then you can put that in the history books, and then you maybe won't feel so shameful when you talk about it in history. But
We have examples of this. The Holocaust, Germany did the right thing. They paid reparations to the Jews. They taught all Germans about the Holocaust. Why can't we do that here? Matter of fact, if you dig a little deeper, which history that they don't teach, the Nazis got their program from American Jim Crow. So they
that's
learned
wild.
that from us in America. People don't talk about that part.
That was Jim Crow was very they wrote a whole freaking playbook.
Yeah. So I mean, it's that simple. But we've already laid out a way to teach history in America, true history, not American mythology. Um, we've
That's a
already
clever
been
way of
talking
putting
about
it.
this.
American mythology. I like
Yeah,
that.
basically, we learned Greek and Roman. Well, what about American mythology? So we learned that too. So I don't know. Um, but any positive things, anything you want to leave these upgraders with? Words of wisdom, words of comfort, encouragement.
I mean, if you're alive, free, and healthy, God bless you. The world's still spinning, and it's an election year. You know what I mean? It's we told you years before, like hold your politicians accountable. Do your assessment. How was the 4 years? And demand demand change. Like you still have that. We're still in a democracy, but do like CJ said and write the whole chain of command.
Yo,
Right, right.
telling you.
Every lawmaker you have access to share your ideas. And shout out to RFK Jr. Like maybe you heard us, maybe you didn't, but it's still great to see a brilliant mind thinking the same as upgrade America. You know what I
For
mean?
You already
A
know.
4.0.
All I can say is keep pushing, keep trying, change the system. It's going to take the people to change the system. We know we got everything against us, money, laws, everything's against us, but that doesn't mean we can't resist, we can't fight, we can't figure out a way. So that's my message to all you upgraders. Do it in your homeland and do it in our homeland.
No doubt, no doubt. And while we still got a second or two, we may experiment with Twitter and just broadcasting from there, and maybe it will just store it on there. But to be determined. It's been a pleasure, upgraders. We'll catch you on the next episode. Peace.